The following is a production by Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. You can support Lone Star Community Radio by donating and sponsoring programs just like this. For more information, check us out online at irlonestar.com. This segment is brought to you by...
Since 2004, Roger Stein Chiropractic has offered spine and joint manipulation services to residents of Montgomery County and surrounding areas. Conditions treated include lower back pain, migraines, headaches, whiplash, carpal tunnel, neck pain, sciatica, joint pain, sports injuries, herniated discs, and complications from pregnancy. Roger Stein Chiropractic, led by Dr. Stacy Rogers and Dr. Brian McGee, is an integrity-verified chiropractic clinic. Call 936-441-9990 for an appointment, or visit rogerssteinchiropractic.com. That's RODGERSSTEIN chiropractic.com.
Team Sinisi is a proud sponsor of Conroe Culture News. Vinny Sinisi and his professional team provide comprehensive real estate services throughout the greater Montgomery County area and beyond. Whether looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, Team Sinisi has an impeccable reputation. Contact Team Sinisi for a great experience at teamsinisi.com. That's TEAMSINISI.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Hello, this is Margie Taylor, your host for Conroe Culture News. And in this second half today, we are going to have Brian Cain, who's a candidate for County Court of Law 1. We just heard from Laura Watson, who's a candidate for County Court of Law 3. And she told us a little bit of the differences. Brian, so tell me a little bit about County Court of Law 1.
So County Court Law number 1 is... jurisdictionally, it's just like County Court 3. It's a court of general jurisdiction. But right now, the docket, the kind of cases that are on that docket are only criminal. It's a misdemeanor court as it stands at the moment. But it could be anything, actually, that any of the county courts can be. It can have family cases. It can have civil cases up to $250,000 as far as what's being asked for. It can have juvenile. It can have probate and guardianship cases as well. So, it's really not different except for the fact is how it's docketed right now, which is that it has misdemeanors and not those other things that I just mentioned and rattled off other than the misdemeanor dockets.
So that's the primary focus, but it could help take some of the load off of the other courts.
Right. So one of the reasons that I'm running is because I've seen in the last several cycles, most of the attorneys that run for these courts are specialists. It didn't always used to be that way. And in fact, Judge Watson was more of a less of a specialized attorney back in the 90s when he ran in 1998 and won for the first time. Because it does all of those things, I think that it's important to have people, at least some people, on these benches that can do different things. We've got a county that's topped 600,000 now, and its population is continuing to grow. We had a new court added last cycle, the 457th District Court, and now we're having another new court added. County Court Law number 6 is being added. It'll come online in January of 2023, I believe is what it's slated to do. We keep adding courts, and we are not adding space in our courthouse. That would require a whole new building. That's probably a couple $100 million build. And if we're going
love that
to
building.
It's historical, that's
yes.
for sure. And it's not just one building. It's really 3 connected by a couple of walkovers. And then there's some court business that takes place across the street, west of the main courthouse. But those aren't they're buildings. They don't just grow. We'd have to actually figure out a way to add space to them, and we're out of courtroom space. When County Court 6 comes online, we're actually probably going to be moving one of the associate judges out of their current space to make room for County Court 6, and I don't know where they're going to stick that associate judge if they move one or the other of them. Well, there's 3 of them. So, one of the things that I think is important in this and coming elections is to make sure that we've got people that can, on these benches, that can roll with the changes if need be. If that court needs to add a docket, change its dockets, or just fill in from time to time for courts that do other, that currently are docketed for the other kinds of law, then I think that's certainly something that we need to, voters need to consider. And it's one of the things that I bring to the table that my opponent, at least the one opponent I have it right at this moment, filing isn't over for another week, December 13th. But right now, he does other things on occasion, but he mostly, and he's running basically on his experience in the criminal law venue. So I do family law. I do a lot of criminal law. As I spoke with some people over the last week, looking at my case numbers, I used to be a little bit more heavy on the family side, and recently because of my contract with the county among one of the 40 that does a bunch of felonies, 90 felony appointments, up to 90 felony appointments a year, my mix has gotten a little skewed more towards criminal these days. I also write wills. I also probate wills from time to time, do some other estate planning, and I have done civil trials in the past. In fact, the first trial I ever did was a civil trial involving someone who just didn't want to pay for something. That's basic civil controversies. So I am not someone who's saying this is what I do and that's what I do and that's what the court's going to do. No, I'm going to roll with it if need be. Or
flexibility.
Excuse me?
You have flexibility.
Yeah, certainly have the flexibility to change the court if it needs to. And I don't know that it necessarily needs to from day one, but it might in day 150 or year 3 or down the line or whatever it is. That's what one of the big reasons I got into this race. It's one of the things I bring to the table is that flexibility. The other thing I would say on that, and I don't say this enough really, I need to say this more, I think, is that having that wide-ranging experience, I understand the consequences a little better than other attorneys who just specialize. They understand what happens in their case, but they don't necessarily see how that what a misdemeanor conviction might do over in family court, or might do in a civil court, or in even guardianship or those types of settings. Whereas I have seen the secondary, tertiary consequences of what happens in criminal court, or vice versa, family court to criminal court. From time to time, it does roll that direction, and certainly people who face criminal consequences are going to be hesitant to move their cases, or maybe they're just the opposite. Maybe they really want to get their other cases done. So it's one of those things that I think that knowing those consequences, knowing how it's affected my clients, that's a kind of experience that I would bring to the bench that people who specialize just don't necessarily bring. They don't see how it really affects their clients, how it affects just the people that come into court, and they're defendants, plaintiffs, respondents, petitioners, whatever kind of court case we're talking about. That's another reason that it's not just the flexibility; it's the experience and knowing that there's lots of effects that court cases bring about. So it's a
big picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Big picture image. So tell me a little bit about your background. Not many people know your background.
Well, more people are getting to know it, but certainly.
I mean, besides being an attorney, tell me some of the other things.
Sure. So I'll mention that first because that's required
Brian Cain. So your business is downtown Conroe, across the street from Carmelita's, as a matter of fact, right?
Right across from Carmelita's. For people who know or from Conroe, it's the old Cochran building. Allstate, which was Bill Cochran. I think he's just retired, but it's still owned by the family trust, and it's still the Cochran building. And it used to be a department store, I think, as late as the 70s. We've been there since 2012. Before that, we were actually here where we're recording today in the tower. My partner started here in 2008. I came and joined him later in 2009, and we were here on the 5th floor until 2012.
Wow!
Actually, on the same day that my first child was born, I got out of moving all the furniture because I was in the hospital with my wife having our first child, Abigail, who's was born on August 27, 2012. So that's why I know the exact date that we moved from here in the tower down to the Cochran building. So yeah. You want me to move beyond but just being an attorney. Like I said, been an attorney since 2009, practicing out of offices here exclusively in Conroe, gone all over the state, up even to the Dallas area, to even to Travis County on a case. But before that, I bounced around a little bit what I wanted to do. Without making this my life story, I'll just say that I started at the University of Texas in engineering. That lasted a very short period of time. In engineering, you've got to love math. Not just be good at it. I'm good at math, but I didn't love it, and so that didn't last that long. That I was into math, and skipping some steps, I ended up finishing it with a degree in history and religious studies, 2 separate degrees. It was the first one awarded by UT, actually, the religious studies degree. And during that time, I was actually at my church, All Saints Episcopal Church, there right by campus. It's right there next to SRD for people who know UT well. For a year and a half, I mentored to see whether or not the priesthood would be right for me. And during that time, I would go to diocesan council. I'd be heavily involved in what I could as a student as far as church activities. As I got close to graduating, I realized that was not the right path for me, and worked a little bit for Dell in sales. And then when I got a master's in history, thinking I'd be a history professor was the next thing I kind of really thought I would do. While I was getting my master's, I came to a realization for a lot of reasons that aren't really that important. We'll just skip them. That the law was probably the better route for me. So I ended up using my master's to help get a half scholarship to Seton Hall University, which is in Newark, and lived in New Jersey for a year, and then the Upper East Side of Manhattan for 2 years with my wife. She worked at Mount Sinai, so it was walking distance for her. I had a reverse commute of an hour on the train, which was nice. But so we lived up in New York for a couple years before coming back down here and getting things rolling on the law side.
Okay, so you have 2 daughters.
Abigail is 9, and then Eleanor, who's born in March. She wouldn't want me to forget her birthday. Is March 24th. She's 5. So I've got 2 daughters. A lot of fun. If you follow Facebook at all, they show up. They make appearances. In fact, on Thanksgiving, Abigail and Katie, my wife, ran in the 5K down the Woodlands, whereas Eleanor and I went and handed out water with some of the Kiwanis folks and the key clubs from, I think it was Klein Collins and Klein Oak, on the back end of the 5-mile version of that run. Eleanor loved it. As soon as one runner grabbed a cup of water, she was sold, and she was, she handed out more water that day because people wanted to take the water from the little 5-year-old as opposed to everybody else. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's good. So you're involved in Kiwanis and in Rotary, right?
Yes.
Rotary of the Woodlands.
Been in the Rotary Club of the Woodlands, I think, since 2015. I haven't really looked. If I check my email for how far
Over
back
5
before
years
it's
or
been a while.
Yes.
So I've been involved with them for a while. I was hopefully when we get that rolling here again soon, I'm on the scholarship committee for the student athlete scholarship that we give out every year. And what I've been doing recently for Rotary, on top of just meetings and general giving back that we do with them, general service that we do, I've been helping run their website, which is, now that I've got it settled, it's just a matter of moving things around, but adding events and pictures
updates.
and just general updates. But it did need a redesign, so I helped with that a little bit.
Wow, you have another talent.
Well, it's a low level ability to monkey with websites. It's not. Let's not get crazy here. I didn't code it. I just used the tools to help redesign it.
Sure. So you're also a member of several chambers.
So I'm a member of the Woodlands Chamber of Commerce, the Conroe Chamber of Commerce, the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce, the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater East Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. Absolutely.
So you're all over.
I try to get to as many places as I can.
So is it hard being a candidate?
Well, it's
a lot of running around.
You do have to drive a lot. I kind of looked at the mileage on my vehicle, and it gets racked up quite a bit. But it's been a lot of fun. It's one of those things that the volume of it may be a little bit high, but going forward, a lot of the things that I've been doing that have been extra on top of just running my practice and the general community service that I'm into, a lot of those things I'll stick with because I've found them to be very enjoyable and fulfilling. And getting to know a lot more people than I did before, which is something that I'm kind of a homebody. Katie is too, my wife. We do things for the kids, but we don't typically force ourselves out. And I think now that I've joined some of these things, it's not that I feel obligated. I feel compelled to keep those friendships going.
See it through.
And stay involved in the community, certainly past whatever the result's going to be here in March 1st.
So the challenge is that you have the whole county, right? So you have to be all over the county, not just one section, not just downtown Conroe or Magnolia or any other place. It's the whole county. So it is a lot. And so you spoke a little bit about your experience, your background. What are a couple of things that you want people to know about you that you haven't mentioned, voters in particular?
Well, some of the things what I haven't mentioned so far, let's see. Well, I mean, I haven't said yet. I don't think it's that important, but I hear most candidates say it. I am from Texas, born in Houston, born in the medical center. So I'm native to the area. I went away for school, but I came back. And my wife's from this part of the town, whereas I'm from Fort Bend County, so I'm from the other side of town. But my wife grew up in Spring and then the Woodlands, and we, pretty obvious why we came back and settled down in this area. She wanted to be close to her parents, so we'd have grandparents in the area. In fact, those grandparents they're over weekly, which is great. I like it. I know some people and their in-laws, they don't necessarily want to see them every week, but I see actually every Wednesday night, I see at least one of my in-laws because we're in the same church choir together, and that's choir practice. And then Sunday morning is church. So when I sing, which is these days most Sundays, we're going to be sitting a couple chairs down from each other. At least.
So faith is a big part of your life too, still.
Oh, it is, absolutely. Like I said, I was thinking about being a priest. It's not like my religiosity, as it were, stopped at that point. It's just that I decided that some of the things about what it takes to be a priest weren't in me, and I didn't think that I would faithfully serve by going down that route. As much as I still kind of wanted it, even when I said no, I just realized that those weren't my particular gifts, and that when you see your priest in moments of distress, you want them to be of a certain mentality, and I don't think I necessarily had that. I think that was the one thing that pushed me away from it. Not that I wouldn't be attentive or caring or right now I'm kind of looking for words. This is one of those things. I noticed the other people that I was mentoring with, the other priests, they always had the words that maybe would be a little slower to come to me. And it was one of the things I saw that pushed me away from it. It wasn't the fact that I lost, my beliefs or anything like that. They hadn't changed, but it was just seeing in myself.
It wasn't the right fit.
Wasn't the right path for me.
But
same thing with when I decided not to be a history professor. It was just not the right path for me for various reasons.
But being a judge is the right path, and you have the right temperament, even keel temperament to be a judge.
So one of the things that I noticed right away is that there are some judges on the bench who I think are fine judges, so I'm not certainly getting on this. Some of them don't have the best poker face, and some of them really do. You don't know what they're thinking until they rule. And I've been told before that if I'm in a situation where I need to weigh some facts, sort of like a judge would do, and come up with a decision, people sometimes they don't know what I'm doing. So I think that's an important skill to be able to not just weigh the facts fairly, come up with a good decision according to the law and the facts that are in place on that case, but during the whole process, not signal to either party that a decision has obviously been made or something like that. And it's one of the things I noticed right away in some of the judges. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make rulings along the way that are firm and even have a little bit of not anger, but a little pointedness to them. Sometimes that's required. Sometimes attorneys, I know I have, attorneys get a little too zealous in their representation, and they have to be corrected that no, we're going to come back to reality here. Let's go on to the next thing.
Bring it down.
Yeah, and go on to the next thing, right? You've said that 3 times now. I get it. We've got to move on. So I've being someone who's in the courtroom a lot, I've seen how a lot of judges act. I've seen how a lot of judges act in different counties. That's another thing. While a lot of criminal defense attorneys do that, they do travel to several counties in the area. I go to several counties, not even just in the area. I've been to counties 3 and 4 hours away. Even when I was told, you don't need to show up. We can figure this out without you, or just you can call in or something. It's like, no, I'm going to go because I want to see how this court operates. Because it's just always anytime you go to court, it's more useful information for an attorney. You get to see how another judge does things, and that can be useful to your clients down the line. So I never try to give up the opportunity to learn, to get more information for myself on how to better represent my clients. And of course, I think that process is what's helped me informed me as to how I would be a judge, hopefully come 2023.
Okay. So let's talk about ways to get in touch with you, Brian. What is the best way to connect with you if somebody wants to meet you, talk to you, or anything like that?
My cell phone is 512-694-0624. Yes, that's an Austin number. I kept it when I got my first cell phone when I was still at UT, so I kept it. Again, it's 512-694-0624. You can also call the office if you'd rather that, because I do have a staff who can take down a message and relay it on to me in case I might be out of pocket. 936-539-1011. So those are the easiest ways to get hold of me. If you don't want to just talk to me that moment, you just want to email me. I've got several emails, but let me give you my campaign one. That is briancain2022@gmail.com.
And your Facebook page is briancain.org?
That's my website.
No, I'm sorry. Your website is,
just
and your Facebook page, you have a Cain for Judge, CC1.
Right.
But you can Google it in there and find Brian Cain anyway.
If you put Brian Cain or Cain for Judge or something, it'll probably come up.
BRIAN,
Yeah.
CAIN.
Yeah, CAIN, and make sure you don't. I went ahead and bought braincain.org because so many people switch up the A and the I because I have that backwards in my last name. So you can actually get to me by braincain.org as well. So
Brain. We'll just call you Brain.
yeah. I have so many certificates, and I have yearbooks with Brain Cain. I have T-shirts from schools with Brain Cain, and they always give me another one once I point it out. But I like to keep those as long as I can.
Brain for Judge. Brian Cain. Okay, well, very good. I appreciate you coming on the show. This is Brian Cain for County Court of Law 1. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.